I have come across this video and found within it many errors and points made without knowledge. I will be refuting them one by one,
Verse 11
inshallah.
says that if a man has only one daughter, she gets half of the inheritance, irrespective of other heirs. But since the same verse says that the share of the son is twice that of the daughter, her brother is supposed to get all the inheritance. Isn't this a discrepancy? Certainly, there is an error in this law.
This is clear misreading of the text. If you knew how to read the English properly, you would understand that it says the daughter gets those shares when there are only daughters. Even with the translation you cite, it clearly says this.
The problem is aggravated when the share of other heirs, parents and wives, are taken into consideration. There are cases when the total of the shares assigned to the inheritors exceeds the patrimony. Take for example the following. According to those verses, if a man dies leaving behind a wife, 3 daughters and his 2 parents, his wife's share of his inheritance is 1/8. In what ye leave, their share is 1/4 if ye leave no child. But if ye leave a child, they get 1/8. His daughters will receive 2/3. If only daughters 2 or more, their share is 2/3 of the inheritance. And his parents will get 1/6 of his inheritance each. For parents, a 1/6 share of the inheritance to each, if the deceased left children. The sum of these shares is more than the total of inheritance. There are not enough shares for everyone to receive their prescribed shares. The shortage is 1/8. If the wife has no children, and the daughters belong to an ex-wife of the deceased, this is what happens. Wife with no children is 1/4. Daughters from an ex-wife of the deceased is 2/3. His parents will get 1/6 of his inheritance each. In this case, the shortage is 1/4. Take another example. Say a man is survived by his childless wife, his mother, and his sisters. The wife receives 1/4 of the inheritance. In what ye leave, their share is 1/4 if ye leave no child. The mother receives 1/3. For parents, a 1/6 share of the inheritance to each, if the deceased left children. If no children, and the parents are the heirs, the mother has 1/3, and the sisters are to get 2/3. If there are 2 sisters, they shall have 2/3 of the inheritance between them. Again, the total of the shares exceeds 1, this time by 3/12 or 25%. This is negligible. In these examples, the shares apportioned to the heirs exceed the total of the patrimony. In both cases, the total of the inheritance sums to exactly 1 before taking into account the wife's share.
The Quran provides inheritance shares which are general and work in 99% of situations. There are obviously anomalous cases where the shares exceed 1. This is expected because it would be unreasonable to expect the Quran to mention all scenarios. If it included all scenarios, the Quran would be thousands of pages long. Later in this video, I explain how we give out the inheritance if this occurs and why it does not contradict the Quran.
To address these issues, Islamic jurists developed a complex science known as al-fara'id, or the law of inheritance, which includes the rules of all and rod to resolve calculation problems. The law of all or increase deals with cases when the inheritor's shares exceed or overshoot the sum of the total inheritance. In such cases, the shares are adjusted to accommodate everyone. This is how it works. 3/24 is changed to 3/27. 16/24 is changed to 16/27. 4/24 is changed to 4/27. 4/24 is changed to 4/27. 27/24 is changed to 27/27.
Al-Awwal was created by Zayd bin Thabit. The Prophet said that Zayd was the most knowledgeable on inheritance. It was also incorporated by the Caliph Umar bin al-Khattab. In another hadith, the Prophet tells us to follow the path of the caliphs. You might be asking how the system used to change shares does not contradict the Quran. When we look at the Arabic, we see the word mataraka used throughout the verse. The word translates to what is left. Some translations translate this word as of the estate, but this would be inaccurate and change the meaning. Here's an example to show why. You order pizza to your house, but on its way, the delivery man ate a half of the pizza. Your mom says you and your brother get half of the pizza. This would mean you both get a half, which would total 1. However, this would be impossible to give both of you a half, as only a half is available. Now, if instead your mom says you and your brother get half of what is left, this would actually work. You would get a half of what is available, which would be a quarter. In al-all, it is similar. The wife gets 1/8 of what is available, which would be 1/9. The fixed shares are not changed.